So today we're working on a Kairak Blu reach-in, and the complaint is that it's freezing all their food. So this is what I see on the display when I first walk up. So we're going to go through it all. You can see here the tomatoes are just like frozen. It's their problem. They're like getting way too cold on everything. My display is not responding to buttons. When I hit set, I should get something. So I got no response out of my display. Just kind of doing a visual. Look at that electrical connector on that power switch. Looks like it's kind of melting, getting a little hot back there. Other than that, everything else looks pretty good. This thing is missing the guard right here, but this reach-in's in great shape compared to some other ones. Nothing's been bypassed, nothing's been hacked. I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
I'm gonna power cycle it. Let's see what happens when we power cycle. So I turned off the switch. Let's go ahead and turn it back on. See if that does anything. Still does not let me access anything. Okay, so a quick call to technical support kind of gave me some answers. So basically what's happening here is the display thinks that someone is pushing the buttons on and off constantly to turn the display off. That's why it says display off, display on. So more than likely what has happened here is someone has gotten the controller wet, which was my very first assumption. You can kind of see some water damage on top of the control. And let me explain what we think is going on. So they instructed me to go over to this display, hold the buttons down. Notice how it says display off, and you can turn it off. You can actually do that and the box will still run. So the controller thinks that someone is pushing the buttons like I just did right now. And that's what's going on with that guy. So, and it gives you no basic, no nothing. You know, you can't get into anything because the buttons are... He said we can try playing with it, but regardless, we're going to change this display. And I'm also going to have some sensors on hand, because what's happening is the unit is running kind of in a standalone mode without this display. And the complaint is that they're freezing products, so more than likely we've got some bad sensors. So when I come back, I'll make sure I have the sensors on me. I'm not going to change the sensors as of yet. They'll just deal with it until we get the control, and we'll do everything at once. Nothing too crazy. The other thing I wanted to point out too was this new little Milwaukee 12-volt drill driver. It's turning out really nice, you know. I really like it so far. You know, still, you know, it's only been about a week since I've had it, but it's nice and convenient. It's smaller than my little DeWalt that I had in here. You know, nice little guy so far. I used it for swaging the other day. More than enough power. I swaged 1/2 inch and 3/8. No sweat at all. So nice little guy so far. This is a, you know, because people are probably going to ask me. Let's see. I'll have to get you guys. This is the 1/2 inch 12-volt drill driver, and it's the fuel model, brushless. So really nice little guy so far. Perfect example. The system is running right now, even though this display is doing its funky stuff. So it's basically running and using the sensors. Okay, and a little overview on this box. So this is a Kairak Blu system, okay? So it's got a glycol pump in the back. And the glycol pump runs 24/7. The temperature controller, this is the human interface, but we've got a relay module back there, okay? The human interface looks at the sensors and opens the solenoid valve, which lets the pressure through, which turns the compressor on. When this opens up, the low pressure control sees a high pressure, then the compressor turns on and runs, okay? And it uses 3 sensors. It has one that shows a temperature on here just for us to see. That sensor is in the air, down inside here, okay? But that actually has no effect on the operation. And then it has 2 other sensors that sense the glycol temperature. And those are what regulate the product temperature. So basically they're just looking at glycol temperature on this guy. That's all they're doing. Alright, we are back. We're going to get this guy replaced right now. We've got a new controller here, so shouldn't be too difficult. Swap it out, and then I have a strong feeling we're gonna have to change the sensors, but we'll check them once we get this guy replaced. Okay, let's see what happens. Swapped it out. Electrical loss. You can hit the alarm button to make that go away. Electrical loss. So we're actually reading temperatures now, so that's a plus. Okay, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna go look at our sensors now. Go to the service technician menu, go to A1, and we're gonna go to EL and EL and CB. Those are our two. So 50 degrees, 50 degrees. That's interesting. The sensors don't look like they're bad. We're gonna let this run for a few minutes. So LL is our air temperature, which is just for the display. It doesn't do anything to the controller. It's just so the customer can see a temp. CB and EL are our glycol temps. 50, 50, yeah. I still think we're gonna have sensors bad, but I'm gonna watch it for a few minutes and see what happens. Still watching it come down, but I'm gonna check something else too. So let's check the set point, A1, set point SP. So it's set for as high as it'll go, which is 30 degrees. So they basically lock you out of temps. You can go from 24 to 30, and that's the glycol temp. So it's set as high as it'll go. So like I said, we're going to watch it come down to temp, because the other thing I'm just thinking as I'm watching here is that we may have a relay that's sticking too, the compressor relay. That could be a problem. So I need to see the box satisfy and make sure it's not getting too cold, you know, when the controller's telling it to stop. So this unit's been running for a while, and my sensors are showing a little bit of a discrepancy. So CB is 32, EL is 29. So I mean, that's only 29, 33, that's only 3 degrees, but because the customer's complaining about freezing the product, I'm gonna go ahead and change these sensors too, because these sensors are a pretty high failure rate. So we're gonna change it. We got the controller module change, or the display, so we'll just change the sensors now too. Okay, so we've got some new sensors. I've showed this before, but you can't get to the old sensors, so like back inside here behind a bunch of foam, so you don't dig that out. The factory just tells you to go ahead and relocate the sensors into the glycol bottle. You just have to make sure they get pushed all the way down into the bottom of this T. So we're going to make a little rig so that way the sensors don't bend, and I'll show you guys that once I get it all finished. So I use the zip ties so that way it kind of holds it straight, and you can kind of flex it and bend it a little bit, and then we're going to feed it down into there. But before I do that, I'm going to mark the level so that way I know once it's in there how far it needs to go down. And then we'll drill a hole in the cap. Remember to put the wad of electrical tape right there so that way the sensors can't be pulled out of the tube. Okay, got it sealed up with silicone. I gotta pull my sensors tight from the other side. We're good to go. Here's my sensors right here. They pull through. It's kind of dummy proof. The blue sensor connects to the blue jacket. The green sensor connects to the green jacket. The old sensors we're just going to discard because, like I said, they're encapsulated in that foam and they're not used anymore. So we'll just discard those. And then we got to get inside the cabinet and splice the yellow sensor, which is the air temp sensor. When I am working with these tiny little control wires, I like to fold them over to give more for the wire nut to grab. So I fold them both over and it gives it a better twist and a better grab. Just kind of like something I always do to make my life easier, because there's nothing worse than trying to get one of these blue wire nuts on here and then it just keeps pulling off. So and as usual, turn the unit on. Make sure the fan motor works before you put the whole thing back together. And we're looking good. Now we're going to let it come down to temp and then check all our sensors again. Yeah, electrical loss, just make it go away by hitting the silence button. Cat C is our air temp in the box. It's just for the display. Doesn't do anything with the box. So we're going to get in here, A1. We're going to go up to CB 35, EL 35. That's perfect. You want those numbers to be within a degree of each other. And then LL is our cabinet temperature or air temp. Again, does not affect the operation of the unit. It's just for the customer to see. So we're good to go. We're going to let this thing come down to temp. Okay, so this was a Kairak Blu reach-in, and that the blue line is their glycol line. That's pretty much, I think, all that they make now. Anyways, so the complaint was that the unit was getting too cold and it was freezing their product, okay? What I found was that, first off, like you guys saw in the video, right away we found that the human interface or the controller display was bad. And it was, they called it like a bootload mode or something like that, where basically it thought that someone was turning the buttons on and off or something like that. Okay, more than likely it was caused by someone getting the controller wet. Okay, went ahead and ordered a new display, came back out, replaced it, but then I had a hunch that we might have some bad sensors too. The sensors are a very common failure thing on these Kairak reach-ins. So if you do any work on these, I highly suggest that you have the sensors and then one of the relays. I'm trying to think of what they call the relay. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a little black relay, not the entire box, but there's just a little black relay. And those fail quite a bit too. So I suggest you keep the sensors and the relays inside your trucks, okay? So I actually had the sensors the first day, but I didn't want to go through all the hassle because I was going to be coming back out with a new display anyways. So came back out, replaced the display. At first, the sensors looked fine, but then as the box came down to temperature, we saw a little bit of a discrepancy in the readings. So basically, the two sensors that sense the glycol temp, they should really be reading within about a degree of each other. So went ahead and replaced the sensors too, and everything else is working fine on the box. The box, you know, other than that, it was in pretty decent shape. The condensing unit section was looking good. Nothing was hacked like some of the other ones that I've worked on. Yeah, and that's pretty much it, guys. Pretty basic repair. You know, moving the sensors into the glycol reservoir like I showed you guys, that's what tech support or the factory recommends you do when you're replacing these sensors. And then splicing the one inside the air temp or the cabinet is what they recommend too, because you can't get to that because it's encapsulated in the foam. So other than that, I will see you guys on the next one, okay? Other than that, I really want to say thank you guys very much for taking the time to watch my videos. You know, please consider subscribing to my channel if you guys haven't already, and check out some of the other channels I recommend, okay? Because there's a lot of other people that make much better content than I on YouTube, and I highly suggest you guys check them out. Also, you know, there's a lot of room on YouTube. So if some of you guys are interested in this, pick up a camera, give it a shot. If you have questions or anything like that on how this works or what you have to do to get to start filming, send me an email. I have no problem explaining that stuff to you guys. There's no secrets here. It's not a competition or anything like that. I think the more people that are sharing their knowledge, the better, because we need technicians so bad, and our industry as a whole is hurting so bad right now via the technician shortage and you know, poor quality service work, okay? So if anybody has good knowledge, let's share it, okay? All right, guys, I will see you guys on the next one.